Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Northern Celtic podcast for another week of Northern Celtic goodness. I am joined by your regular hosts, Isaac.
Hello, everyone.
And Dan.
Hello, everyone.
And I will continue handing you over to Isaac.
Thank you very much. Right, we should start off this episode. Again, thank you very much for your continuing support. Episode 7 now. So we're doing a right old job on this one, as they would say out our way. Today is a bit different to what we've normally done, as we've normally had some interviews or we've had an awards ceremony. But today we're going to have a little bit of a debate and a bit of a topical discussion about a certain subject that I will get onto in the few seconds, but you'll obviously know what it is due to the title of the episode. But for our regular segment to the North Celtic podcast is the flashback result. So I thought I'd go for one for this season, so it's not really far of a flashback result, but it is the 4-3 victory over Phoenix when the first game back after Christmas. You'll see it on your screens now. And in this game, Dan, you scored 2, but one of those goals, which we have talked about in the podcast before, was quite interesting. Tell us a bit about that.
Oh, yes. So, I think we were 1-0 down. We just went 1-0 down, I recall.
Yes,
we went 1-0 down, then we went on an attack and we had a corner. And I don't know who, and I think I just started taking corners on the right-hand side, and I wanted to take it. And the weather wasn't bad weather. It was a bit windy. It was sort of mild.
Yeah, it was proper windy.
So I just whipped it in, and because I asked Calvin where he wanted me to put it, he said put it near the keeper. And instead of putting it on the keeper, I put it more near in the post. So I went in the goal. So it was pretty decent corner actually.
it was one of
totally against the run of play.
It was one of them games that. It was an interesting experience because it was like the first game back after Christmas always is a bit of a interesting one because it'll either go one or two ways. Everyone has been eating through Christmas, so therefore everyone is going to be completely out of fitness. So it's always a bit of a kind of wake up call playing those games. But it was a brilliant game. I think you were away at that one, Cam. I think you had one of your tournaments that you were going to.
Yeah, I was.
You couldn't be there for some reason.
I was not present. I definitely hadn't eaten too much over Christmas.
No.
Yeah, I'll believe that one when I see it.
It wasn't a bad. It was quite an end-to-end game, though, wasn't it?
It was. It was sort of ended 4-3 in the end. So it was. I mean, we definitely deserved the win. We just didn't show it on the day. I do remember also that game. Rudders scored from having Kelvin kick the ball at him in the stomach and it went in. So it was one of his 2 goals that he got this season. But I do remember knocking one of the players over, and my favourite quote of the season was one of their players turned around and pointed to him on the floor and went, "You've killed him." And unfortunately, he was a very small chap, and running into me was
not a good idea.
Like running into a freight train, I imagine.
Yeah. My second goal in that game wasn't too bad either. Actually managed to put one in the top corner.
Yeah, oh yes, I remember that one as well.
That was a very rare occurrence because half my goals are normally in the bottom corners.
There you go. Right, so the big question for this episode that we're going to talk about. So, should the season have ended due to COVID-19, or should they try and finish the few games that they had left to work out the table for the end of this season? So before you guys get into your points and what you think, I'll just run you down where the places were in the table. So Ipswich Elite were top with 39 points and they had 14 games played. Then Ipswich Pythons were in second place with 37 points and 15 games played. And then in third place was Feathers Reserves, who had played 14 and got 36 points. So there was only about 3 points in it. But do you think, how should they decide whether who goes up or not? So do you think the season should have gone on? First, I'm going to go to Cameron.
No, I definitely think the season had to end with the scenario. I don't think it could have continued on, playing through it at any rate. But coming back to what you said, I reckon they could have perhaps played the end of the season. It is quite tight at the top there. There's only 3 points in between these teams.
Yeah,
and it definitely would have been almost a picture book finish. I can't remember how many teams get promoted.
I think it's just 2.
Just 2. So technically, Feathers were in a fantastic position to actually take top since they had a game in hand. Am I right in saying? Did I hear that right?
So not Taverners. Feathers. Yeah, they had. Well, both Elite and Feathers were on 14, whereas Pythons had 50. So, say Feathers played their next game one, they would theoretically go second and then get re-promoted.
Yeah. So
do you give them that opportunity to play that game and see if they do it? How do they do it, Cam?
I reckon that would be fair if they played the final games. I reckon, depending on what the 4th team was, which I don't know if you have opened in your.
Yeah, I do.
What was the team beneath Feathers?
Taverners Reserves. They played 15 and only got 31 points. So there was a 5-point gap between them, and so it was really those top 3 teams that were in it. So
yeah, I reckon. I don't know. I reckon you could have. I reckon Pythons and Feathers could have at least perhaps played a playoff game almost to see who gets that final promotion spot.
Yeah, that's what I might have suggested actually. A playoff game. Bad idea.
Between Feathers and Pythons, because I think that would be a very. Because there's only one point between them, and technically Python has the game in hand. So I reckon especially from Pythons, they might complain. They might have not complained at a playoff, but I think the fair fact would have been is that since they had the game in hand, I think it would have been quite fair for them to play that playoff game and see what Feathers could do against them.
To be fair, I didn't think of that, but now you've said that the Pythons versus Feathers game to just see who clears the gap and goes through, because if the Elite were well away and they deserve to be promoted, they've played outstanding this season and they should be in the league above. So you can't take anything away from them. But I think that would be a really good suggestion. I think it's worth if the league got a hold of that. I mean, I don't know what those 2 teams think about it. I might try and reach out to them and see how they feel about it, because the league hasn't released a statement yet or anything, because I know that there hasn't been an AGM or whatnot. But like I said, there hasn't been anything said to who's going up, who's going down, and what the scenarios at the end of the season is.
No.
So, but I definitely think that's a really good point. But yeah, Dan, what do you think?
How many games left in the season? Do you know that?
I mean, we played about 16, but there was 12 teams, so 24. There should have been 22 played, but Cherry Tree obviously got they
so
folded.
21.
So there'd have been now about 20 because you'd have to take 2 games Cherry Tree. So there'd been about 20 games, and the team that played the most,
been about 4 games left.
Yeah, so Phoenix played 17, so they'd already played. They only had 3 games left.
Okay. I think it is a tough one, but I do agree. So the playoff would be sort of a good idea.
Yeah.
But I think what should generally happen, as unfair as who's 3rd?
Feathers Reserves.
And I just feel unfortunately for Feathers, I think. Well, Ipswich Elite should just I think it should just be the top 2 go up, because as much as it's unfair on the team who's 3rd with a bunch of games in hand, we're playing them both. They were both sort of solid teams, and they do deserve to go up. And there's no point, as much as we probably want to continue playing this season, I think it would be easier to sort of do what some leagues have done and just cancel, void the season and just promote the top 2 teams and then relegate the bottom 2 in the division above. As unfair as it does sort of seem, I think it's probably one of the best ways to sort of try and get the season back to normal the next season, as harsh as it may sound.
Yeah, I to look at this, I try to look up further up the scale. You look at what's going on at the professional level, and it's been so inconsistent in my eyes, where the Premier League's decided to carry on, but yet League One and the Championships are only playing the playoff games, which is why I think they could do that for us. if they just play the playoff games, I know they haven't given us a date for when the season starts, but there's going to be enough time because I know the teams are booking pre-season friendlies for August now. Why can't they then just play that playoff game then? Because that's what I know. It's League One and it's a ridiculously high standard compared to us. But why can't they just play that game, just that one game then to decide it? I mean, for the league point of view, I can see how that would be much easier. But it is just one of them things that no one's seen anything like this before. So I get that it's really difficult because in any scheme of work and anything that's happening now, it's really difficult to work out what's going. But personally, from my point of view, I think the playoff from the two teams, that one game at Gainsborough, just seal it and get it sorted.
Yeah, I do. Or they could do what they did in League One and do the points per game.
Yeah, that's.
I know we're not as professional as a professional football team, but pardon my language and that.
So what? How many wins they got compared to each team? If you were to do that, that would have Pythons and Feathers both had 12 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, we might not be a higher level team, but we definitely, in our position, still have that competitive feeling of a lot. And I think the points per game one could have perhaps given us a nice end to see where we could have ended, almost.
Might have popped us up or popped us down, but
yeah, but it's one of them things that if we did do that, it almost wouldn't work because looking at the points. They're literally both had 2 losses, both had 12 wins. The only difference was that Pythons drew a game, which is what goes. So maybe you'd have to go to that. But it's interesting. I think it's really. Sorry, Dan,
yeah, but unfortunately, the points per game thing, as we're seeing in real life, it's quite a harsh reality because it happened with Tranmere. They got relegated.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things, if you miss out just by a point, you can't really do it. You can't blame your previous games. It's just something that's been suggested, and sometimes you just have to go through what the league have said.
And I think that, going back to what Cam said, it is really competitive, and it means a lot to us. So just by almost kind of neglecting it makes things worse because these results and these Sunday games are really, really important to a lot of people. And it's a lot of people's outlets from life. So, and if, these results can determine a lot of what people think. So it's really crucial. But I think there's some really good suggestions that we've kind of cropped up there. I think, Dan's, your points per game and wins and losses is a really good option. But from my personal point of view, I think the playoff game would be the best way, but it would be logistically, how would you do it? But yeah, so it's an interesting way of looking at it. But obviously, because of the coronavirus type thing that's going on, the FA have released some guidelines. So I thought that I would use this as an opportunity to talk about some of the guidelines that have been given out to us for other clubs that are listening, to maybe give some suggestions if they haven't already seen it. I imagine that most clubs have already seen it. So if you're watching this, you're watching this on YouTube, so I'll just pop them up on the screen now, but I'll just kind of do a little talk about them. So like I said, what they're giving is the basic one, is what a lot of people have been doing, is playing individually, practicing fitness and individual skills at home, which is what a lot of people have been doing. I know I've been doing that personally. And Dan, I know that you've been doing it too. And imagine, Cam, you've kicked the ball a couple of times maybe if we're lucky. Another one is playing football with your family members and others that live in your household. So for me, luckily I have my brother who also plays football and my sister plays football. So I get the opportunity to play with them. But it's much harder if you're on your own, and it's harder to kind of get the motivation to go on. For you, Dan, you've spoke to me about it, and you've said how sometimes it is tough when you're on your own and you have to try and motivate yourself to do.
Yeah, it's not easy because obviously when you want to practice your weaknesses, so for me it would be my right foot. It's hard to do that by yourself because you got to try and work out what you can do. Drills, especially if you don't have the equipment or anything, so you sort of got to try and it's like the mental side of it is probably more of the mental side, which is the whole point of this, virus thing, is the mental thing. And what will mainly can be is the mental point of view.
I couldn't agree with you more. But then look, so obviously this was produced from the 12th of June when they revisited a lot of the different conditions for the virus. But looking at training, they've suggested that for football training or fitness activities, groups no bigger than 6, keeping it 2 metres apart at all time. And they've also suggested, making sure everyone's keeping their hands clean. And if you're using equipment, it's cleaned, and don't touch it if it's not necessary. And a lot of things they've also said about bibs is, if you are going to give people training bibs to wear, make sure they stay with them and don't leave them for the next people. So it's given us really this sort of opportunity to actually get back to training, and it's given us, it's talked about having these different groups of 6s, and I mean, from my point of view, it's a suggestion for clubs that maybe want to start training or aren't sure how to do it. I'm sure a lot of clubs have a bit of a plan of what they want to do with their training, but an option could be to do circuit training type drills, to have a certain station set up at each station set up, and then have your groups of 6 alternate around through each of those, depending on how many you can get to come to training. I know that's definitely an idea that we've looked into. But also looking through the guidelines, I also went onto the FA website, and I looked at the advice and the guidelines for adults playing football in the game for across the board. But in summary, I read through it, and it was a lot of it was very much follow the government restrictions, don't do what's not necessary, and basically just look after yourself. But they've summarised it here to follow the government guidelines. Be aware of what your club's telling you to do. If they've said to do something, make sure you're listening. And obviously the last one is, if in doubt, if you're not comfortable returning, just don't return. Return when you're ready, because like Dan said, it is a mental thing, and you've got to look at it from the point of view that you've got to look after yourself. But for me, the mental side of it is wanting to get back. So it's really crucial that you follow these guidelines to make sure that we can get back to playing as quick as possible. Because if they're abused or they're not looked at properly, then we will take a step back. But Cam, how have you been coping, being on your own as well? Because I'd like to say, I've talked to Dan about it. But how have you been coping with it all, and with football and training, with fitness?
My body's sort of almost gone into hibernation a bit, to be honest. And that's a lie, to be honest, because I'm quite though it's not quite the same sort of work fitness as football, I am quite lucky because the job I do, which again I've been lucky enough to continue throughout this whole throughout COVID-19 in the UK in safe standards, is rather physical. So physical aspect and the fatigue of working all day, fitness wise, is fine, but it's adjusting to that short burst football of running and going and up and going again. That's definitely where I'm stuck on fitness wise. The engine's there, I can go for a while. It's just that constant regulation of speed, especially when playing fullback, because I could almost be sitting back at one point watching the game unfold at the other end of the pitch, and then the next minute I'm either having to bolt up to meet the ball or running back to make sure that the ball over the top doesn't cause any problems. So overall I'd say I'm not too bad. It's just getting that regular fitness regulation and probably that touch back in. It was bad before I left. It's probably going to be horrific now.
No. Like I say, when we played last weekend, we started doing some drills, didn't we? And you, like I say, to be fair, you look like you've sat in the gym all day. Your arms look like the size of like tree trunks. But no, it's just doing things like that, getting out when you can, doing little bits. And I'm speaking directly to the players now for us. If you can't make it to training sessions that we're trying to do, make sure you're doing something. Even if it's something little, just try and help yourself, because it will help us as a whole all together. Taking those small steps back to getting back to normal. But I think for the next part, Dan's going to tell us a little bit about what's coming up for football-wise in the future.
Yes. So we've been talking to a team who play in the Bury Sunday League, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And we've got a pre-season game on the 2nd of August against Stonemarket United, which I think is going to probably be a big sort of turning point for all of us lads here at Northern, because it'll be our first sort of actual kickabout with everyone, and back into sort of the game we love, as might have a few different rules and all that due to this convoy thing, but we'll find out.
Convoy?
You mean COVID?
I meant COVID, not convoy.
Send in the convoy. Sorry, you were saying.
But sorry about that.
That's brilliant.
We've got a pre-season game against them on the 2nd of August, which will be a very good sort of test, and obviously a big fitness regime, getting back into it and all this, which will be all good for us and to see all the lads. But also, if you're a manager or want to give us a game in pre-season, do you want to contact us through our social media pages, and then we can point you in the right direction to who we want to arrange a game with, and then we can sort of go from there, because we're trying to get more pre-season games sorted so we can sort of challenge ourselves, but also not overkill ourselves whenever the season starts, to sort of just get back into the fitness of football again.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's that right balance, isn't it? We don't want to play teams that are going to absolutely, demoralise us, but we also want to challenge ourselves to get there. But I think, if you do want to play us, give us the contacts, and we'll try and sort something out. I think it would be really good. So, obviously this is all if the stars align and everything's right. That's why we're all doing it now. But if it doesn't happen, we just won't play them. But we have our next segment of the podcast, and we're going to go to a news flash, and we're going to go to our news anchor for this evening, Mr. Cameron Abbott.
Well, first up on the news tonight is that new items have been added to our club shop, which you can find online. I'm pretty sure Isaac will leave a link in the description to our website, which you can buy Northern Celtic merch, mugs, snoods, shirts, loads of Northern Celtic gear if you want to help support the club yourself. And also a little message hidden in here for our club players. New track jackets can be bought through Isaac if you get in touch with him. And also that this Sunday at, is it 10 o'clock, Isaac?
It's 9.
9 o'clock in the morning at oh dear, I'm not doing very good. Murray Road, there you go. The new training with Northern Celtic will begin. Of course, we will be abiding by government guidelines, which Isaac we've been talking about. So back to basic, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for informing us a little bit more about the club there, Cameron. So we'll be looking to sell you to the BBC Suffolk to do these segments on there at a fair price, obviously. But yeah, if there's anything in what Cam said that you're interested in, contact myself or any of the socials, and that'll be fantastic. So thank you. So we're now moving on from one Northern Celtic host to another. Mr. Templeman, I believe you have your question time.
Oh yes, my lovely question time. So some people contacted us, I believe it was the other week.
Yeah,
and
last week's podcast.
We have 2 questions that I think we're both going to enjoy answering.
Yeah.
In Isaac's turn, I'm not sure about Cameron. So the first question is, what's the best lino mistake that I think we've witnessed this season? And I think there's been a lot. There normally isn't Sunday League, because it's normally, you do get the odd occasional biased linesman.
Yeah,
but they would want to admit that or not.
the inexperienced one.
That's all I was going to say. Otherwise, I could get into trouble, but I don't know what the possibilities of that are. So, Isaac, what's your best Dino mistake that you witnessed?
My favourite, maybe not necessarily mistake, but reaction would be the pre-season game against Wycombe Wanderers. And we played at Wycombe, and one of the players at the time, Tom Harvey, great little man, interesting character. He ran the line, and something went wrong, and he wasn't watching the game, I don't think, and was not paying attention, and I think it might have led to a goal, and the team gave him a bit of stick. But it was the way that it was almost like a diva drop from a Hollywood film. Threw the flag down and strolled off into the car park like he hadn't got his own way, and that was, for me, that was just the peak lino abilities for Sunday League.
Yes, I do remember that. That was a pretty funny one, sort of a bamboozling one, because it came out of nowhere. What's yours, Cameron?
Again, I wouldn't say it's really a mistake, but I won't mention any names. But I remember at one point, I think it was this season, we didn't have many subs onto the bench, and normally if I'm on the bench, I do the line nearly all the time, or if I come off, I take the line. If Super Mick isn't there, but
Super.
but no, I remember there was this one lad who was on the bench, and I think he was the only one left on there, and so he had to take the line. And to be honest, there are some surprising amount of people who play football all the time, and even in attacking players, who don't quite always understand the offside rule. And I do remember that this player just needed a few minutes to get his grasp with the flag. And I do remember our manager behind him pretty much, guiding him up and down the line, shouting over his shoulder everything that came over for a few minutes until I think he got the hang of it. But watching that from the sideline, seeing our manager just his head appear over the shoulder of the lino, just sort of guiding him up and down, following the line, was quite entertaining to watch from the fullback position anyway.
Yeah, it's not easy being a linesman. I've done it myself. It's really hard to keep an eye with your own defence. But it was spoken about in Mossy's episode, is when Mick tried to call an offside when he was about 30 yards up the pitch.
Bless him.
And obviously they scored, and Mossy had to give the goal because of how far away I think Mick was. It was quite funny. If you go back to that episode, it is kind of explained a bit more in there, but that was probably one of the funniest moments I think I've probably seen as well. And then this one's quite a tough one. I'm going to go to you first on this one, Cameron.
Right.
Sum yourself up in 6 words, but I think we spoke about this before. You don't know 6 words, so I'm going to let you go away.
The barely literate.
No, I can. I tell you what, this was a lot harder than I thought, to be honest. But no, dirty 30. Enough said. That's all I got to say on that.
What's yours, Mr. Chapman?
I'm going for mine. So, versatile defender that resembles John Lennon. There we go, 6 words.
I definitely agree with that. Mine is probably a powerful left foot that cannot defend. Cause
there you go, you hit it with 6
I really cannot defend.
You can, within reason. If we put
within reason.
Backside.
Yeah, I don't really think the viewers would want to witness that.
Well, you never know. Cameron's on the Sunday outing. Brilliant. Well, thank you for your question time segment. Again, this has been quite a nice episode. Really, it's been nice to chat about what's been going on and have a little debate. We'll definitely be doing something similar like this again. But again, this week 7. I mean, I speak for myself, but I know that you guys are, and I'm really enjoying doing this. And the feedback we've had from this has been really good, and we can't keep thanking you enough. And we really appreciate it every week. So thank you very much. But so this is another week on, and hopefully it'll be another week out of our quarantine chronicles through into the new season. So let me hand over to the man, the myth, the legend that is Cameron Abbott. Sign us out, big man.
Right, that is us finished for another week. Thank you very much, Isaac. And just as Isaac said, we are very appreciative for all the support that you've given us. We've gone 100 miles over what we ever thought we could. So it's goodbye from me, goodbye from Isaac.
Peace and love, guys.
Goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye from me. Remember, if you want us to discuss anything or you want to ask us anything, just leave it down in the comments below or get in contact with us on our social pages, which will be in the link down below. Thank you for watching, and we appreciate the support.
Yep. Cheers, lads, and we'll catch you next week.